If you're a peer advisor working in an office that has a front desk or uses kiosk check-in for students through SSC, you'll want to be paying attention to this appointment queue tab quite often during the work shifts. You'll want to have this open so that you know when a student checks in and so that you can pick them up and work with the student as well. On the front desk side of things, or the kiosk side, they'll be checking students in, or the student will check themselves in on a drop-in shift likely for peer advisors. What I'm going to do right now on a screen that you aren't able to see is act as that front desk staff member and add a student to the queue. We recommend that as peer advisors, if your supervisor agrees that it's appropriate, you set your availability with a service of peer advising so the front desk or a student checking in at the kiosk can then select peer advising as the service that they're looking to be part of that day. So, peer advising, I'll just type in a little bit over here in a different screen. Now I'm going to add a student to the queue, and what you're going to see is that student pop up on the screen. So you can see there's a yellow test or a yellow notification bar that comes up that tells you this. This will come up no matter what page you're on. If you're on the queue page, you'll also immediately be able to see the person here. You can see that their name is a blue clickable link. We recommend, if you're using this queue, that you right-click and open the student's page in a new tab. Now this is a test student and not a real student, so it doesn't have any information on this page. But if it was a real student, you'd be able to see information about what major they are. You'd be able to see if they have any assigned advisors. You'd be able to see information about their academic standing that you could then discuss with the student. This is also where you go to be able to add an appointment, a report on an appointment with a student, or an appointment summary. After you've opened that tab up and taken a look, you would then click this radio button next to the waiting student that you're going to assist, and you would select the Actions drop-down menu and you would click Start Appointment. That is, if you're a peer advisor in an office where you're making reports on advising, which we highly recommend. So that way, we're providing that deeper level of service where another advisor could see what you've talked about. When you click Start Appointment, in this window, it's going to open up that appointment summary that you're going to fill out. You'll also see in the background there that the student has left the queue, so nobody else will be able to pick them up. You'd then go through the appointment, typically using information on DuckWeb with the student logged into DuckWeb so that you can see the information, as well as the information you can see on their student page on SSC. After you meet with them, or sometimes folks prefer to do this while meeting with the student, you'll type up notes on the meeting in this appointment summary. You'll want to make sure, if you have a choice to select the care unit, that's typically going to be general advising. The location will be the department or office you're working in. If you talked about things more than peer advising, let's say you talked about schedule planning, you can choose the other appropriate reasons that you met with the student. And then as your meeting type, you would choose peer advising. If you end up doing email or phone advising, you can select those as the more appropriate options as well. But for in-office advising as a peer, you're going to select peer advising as the meeting type. This allows us and your supervisor to later pull out information and better serve and support you as staff members and also the students that you have been able to see. The arrival time is going to automatically populate with the time that the student checked in. You can change this if it needs to be changed. The departed time is going to automatically populate when you click Save Report. So if you're doing this a substantial amount of time after you actually met with the student, go ahead and make sure that you change the information on that as well. If you do something like a graduation plan or something else that you need to attach in a file, you can select this Choose File and attach there. Suggested follow-up doesn't create an appointment or do anything like that, so typically we just leave this alone. The main focus here is going to be the actual appointment summary that you write the notes from the interaction you had with that student. In the other parts of this module on note-taking standards and reporting standards, you'll hear from Paige Jackson in the Office of Academic Advising about our campus standards around effective note-taking. So please be sure to read or follow along with those modules and make sure that you use those standards in your reports. Once you've created a report, you can click Save This Report, and it becomes a document that is officially attached to that student's record and is available to other advisors on campus so that we can all make sure we're providing the best support possible. And then, once you click Save Report, if there's another student waiting for you in the queue or for a peer advisor, you'd be able to pick them up, or you can wait until such time as someone else comes in. If you're not using a drop-in queue, if you are working in an office that doesn't use kiosk or front desk check-in, what you would do instead when a student comes to meet with you as a peer advisor is simply use this quick search button to find the student. We recommend using the student's 9-5 number if they have one, since that's their unique student identifier. If there's a prospective student, you can just type in the word prospective, and we have some prospective student accounts that you can use here. The other option is, in this case, we're going to use a test student just so that you can see what that looks like, and you would click that. When you click in, again, you'd be able to see the student's information. On this page, you're not going to see any of that typical information since it's a test student. You won't see the bars and things you'd be able to see normally. But on the side, you'd be able to see these different options: messaging the student, adding a note, add a reminder, report on advising, create request for appointment, schedule an appointment. Most of the time, you're going to be using this report on an appointment. In the other modules, you'll be able to hear about the difference or learn about the difference between a note and a report. You will typically want to be using reports because it collects more information about when the appointment was, what the appointment was about. If you're coming from the students page, you'll have to select the care unit, which is going to be general advising, and then less things will be filled out for you than they were if you're coming from a drop-in queue like a kiosk check-in or front desk would allow. But all the same parameters apply. You select your location, service, peer advising or things, select peer advising as your type. Sorry for the autofill there. Do the time and date correctly. If you're adding this much after the fact, you can change, maybe you saw the student on Monday and you forgot to make a report on your advising. You can add that in and make sure the time is as accurate as possible. So that's how you can go through and check a student in from drop-in, how you can view their student file as well, and how you can open a report on advising with a student if that is something that you're doing after the fact or you're not using the queue.